When he opens his eyes, treasure hunter Nate is hanging outside down from a line of cargo boxes that are also hanging from an open plane. He makes his way up as he fights off various mercenaries and manages to climb into the plane again, but as soon as he gets inside, a red car pushes him back out. As he falls to his death, a hand grabs his just in time, which matches a small adventure Nate had when he was a boy. 15 years earlier, young Nate and his older brother Sam sneaked into a museum in Boston, and Nate would have fallen off the window if Sam hadn't caught him. The orphan brothers are looking for a map made after the Magellan expedition to use to find an ancient treasure. Unfortunately, as soon as Sam tries to pick the lock, he triggers the alarm and they're caught by the police. The boys are taken back to the orphanage and Nate gets to stay, but because this is Sam's third strike, he must be taken to prison. They give the brothers a moment alone to say goodbye, so Sam takes advantage of this to escape. Before leaving though, he gives Nate his beloved ring to always be with him, and promises to come for him in the future. After Sam's gone, Nate finds an empty piece of paper in his brother's lighter, which he uses to reveal a hidden message with words of love from Sam. Back in the present day, Nate now works as a bartender in New York. He also pickpockets rich clients by getting close with random excuses, like helping a girl light her cigarette in order to steal her bracelet. Nate still carries his brother's lighter with him, although it isn't working very well these days. One night, while he's closing the bar, a man called Sully approaches Nate and congratulates him on his pickpocketing skills before offering him to join him on an incoming important job. Nate isn't about to start doing crime with a stranger and kicks him out, only to then discover Sully took the bracelet from his pocket and left his card instead. Wanting the bracelet back, Nate goes to the address on the card, sneaking inside the apartment by stealing the keys from the doorman. Sully's already waiting for him, and to Nate's shock, he's in possession of the original Magellan's map. Nate comments on the legends that say the original trip had been planned to find gold, and Sully confirms it's true. The trip had been funded by the Moncada family, and the current heirs, Armando and his son Santiago, are still looking for that treasure. To help him convince Nate to join him, Sully mentions he was a friend of Sam's, and even shows him a picture of his adult self. Apparently, Sam disappeared after they found Magellan's journal, and Sully hasn't even heard from him since. Nate agrees that sounds like Sam because he hasn't been in contact with him either, so Sully points out that looking for the gold could help Nate find Sam as well. Nate still turns him down, claiming the brother he knew doesn't exist anymore. However, when he returns to his apartment, he opens a box he keeps with important memories, which includes postcards from Sam. Nate lied to Sully when he said his brother never contacted him again. He also finds the ring, and after putting it back on, he decides the Does want to do this after all. Sully and Nate meet to plan their first move. There's an auction coming up, and one of the antiques they're offering it's a cross that works as a key for the chamber where they've hidden the gold. The legend says there are 2 keys, and Sully already has the other one, so they need to steal this one to get started. After demanding Sully to go 50-50 on the gold, Nate uses his free time to study the building where the auction will be held and comes up with a plan. The night of the auction, Sully and Nate see a valuable red car and find out Santiago is also there, so there'll be tough competition for the cross because he thinks the gold is his birthright. He isn't alone though. He's employed mercenary leader Joe, who used to be Sully's partner and teases him when she sees him. As the auction is about to start, Sully pretends to be one of the buyers while Nate gets the plan ready. Joe notices him moving suspiciously and sends her men to keep an eye on him. By putting his gum on the digital lock, Nate manages to get inside the electrical room. The idea is to cut power so that Sully can steal the cross in the dark. Because Nate's taking too long, Sully finds himself with no other choice but to start bidding against Santiago, even if he doesn't actually have the money for it. Unfortunately, Nate is found by Joe's men and a fight begins. After exchanging a few blows, Nate runs out of the room and decides to cause a distraction by jumping on the hall's ceiling lamps. Now everyone is panicking and the cross is being taken away, so Sully turns his jacket around and pretends to be one of the workers. As Nate is found and chased by security, Sully puts his hands on the cross and takes it away saying he's in charge of taking it to the vault, but Joe notices this and goes after him. She manages to corner him and threaten him with her knife, but at that moment, security finds them and tries to arrest her for attacking an auction employee. Sully gets to go away with the cross while Joe fights the guards. When Sully makes it back to his car, Nate is waiting for him, and they agree to go to Spain together. On the plane, Nate gets to look at the captain's journal that confirms the legend. Magellan found tons of gold in the Philippines, hid it in Barcelona, and then told the Moncada family that he found nothing. Following the clues in the journal, they'll be able to find the gold, although so far the main clue is just a tree. Once they arrive in Barcelona, they meet with Chloe, another treasure hunter that has managed to acquire the other cross. However, she doesn't want to work with Sully, who she considers to be a liar and a backstabber. After she leaves, Nate discovers she took their cross with her and chases her through the streets of Barcelona. Chloe is faster though, and she makes it to her car, ready to escape. Nate and Sully don't give up and convince her to stay by pointing out she may have the crosses but they have the journal, so they're the only ones that know where to go next. Now they're all working together. Nate takes them to the place indicated by the clue. It's not an actual tree, it refers to a church that has pine as part of the name and a tree as its logo. Meanwhile, Santiago confronts his dad. Armando has appeared on the news saying he'll give away his fortune, and he confesses the reason for this is that their money is dipped in blood. Unable to make him change his mind, Santiago leaves and goes to see Joe to order her to keep an eye on Sully because he's been seen around town. Back to the team, they're taking a break before jumping on the next part of the plan. While Nate is in the kitchen, Chloe tells Sully she's guessed Nate is Sam's brother and demands that Sully tell him the truth of what happened, but Sully just says he'll do it when the time is right. The next day, Santiago once again tries to change his father's mind about giving away the fortune. Since Armando refuses, Santiago follows him to his car and orders Joe to kill him. When night falls, the team enters the church pretending to be tourists, and Nate is shocked to find the postcards they sell there match one of Sam's. Following the symbols and words carved on the floor and walls, the trio finds a secret button that Nate presses to open a hidden painting behind a Mary statue. When Nate turns it around and reveals a picture of hell, the altar uncovers the keyholes for the crosses. Nate and Chloe use the keys and turn it clockwise first, which releases a series of darts that almost kills them. Thankfully they dodge just in time and try clockwise next, which finally gives them access to a hidden tunnel. The journal says one must stay up in heaven and the other down in hell, so Nate and Chloe enter the tunnel with one of the crosses while Sully stays outside with the other. In order for Sully to know where he needs to go next, Nate puts a tracker on his phone. Now Sully can follow their movements, unaware that Joe is following him too. Nate and Chloe follow a mysterious tunnel that eventually takes them to a nightclub, and Joe's men are there too. By pretending to be a couple dancing, the duo crosses the room and makes it to the bar, where Nate tries to start a fire with Sam's lighter. It fails again, so Chloe starts it for him and now they have the distraction they need to work on the puzzle carved on the wall behind the bar. Joe's men find them anyway, causing Nate to get in a fight with them until Chloe finally finds another keyhole that she opens with the cross. A new secret tunnel appears in front of them and the duo gets to escape right before it closes again, leaving Joe's men behind. Following this tunnel takes the duo to a secret door under a fountain, and when they use the key on it, the room begins filling with water. Sully needs to use the cross on the hole above the ground to save them, but the keyhole is behind thick protective glass. While he begins working on breaking the glass, Joe shows up to steal the cross and a fight ensues. At first, it seems Joe has the upper hand, but with one quick movement, Sully turns the tables and throws Joe against the glass, finally breaking it. Then, Sully puts the cross on the keyhole and opens the secret door so the duo can escape, but only Nate comes out. When he notices Chloe has passed out underwater, Nate goes back for her, and once they're both out, Chloe is shocked to see she's been helped instead of backstabbed. This door takes them to a Roman antechamber, where Nate uses his lighter to light up a torch, although it takes him a few tries. This chamber is underground as well and Sully can see them through a drainage grill on the street. He also finds a symbol carved on a rock that indicates both keys must go together to open the next door, thus Sully throws the key he has through the grill so it can reach the duo. Nate puts the crosses together and manages to open another mysterious door that takes them to a Roman storehouse. There are 3 giant urns in it and for a moment the team thinks they've found the gold, but actually, the urns are full of salt. As they inspect them, the urns suddenly break, which allows them to find a map among the salt. Nate takes note of a route that goes from Spain to the East Indies, but before he can discuss the possibilities, Chloe takes out her gun and demands that he hands the map to her. Nate tries to make a deal with her, but Chloe just tells him he doesn't know the full story of what happened to Sam before knocking him out and running away with the map. Moments later, Sully wakes Nate up, and Nate demands to know the truth. Sully explains Sam didn't ghost him, he's just gone. They had reached the captain's tomb together and found the journal, but on their way out, they were attacked by Joe and her men, and Sam got shot. Nate realizes Sully got away and left Sam there to die, and the only reason why he recruited Nate is that Sam could have told him some of the missing clues he was missing to reach the gold. After calling Sully greedy and selfish, Nate breaks their partnership and leaves. Later, Sully finds Nate to try to make him come back, and Nate accepts but only because he's been looking at the postcards and decided he wants to finish what his brother started. Meanwhile, Joe goes to report to Santiago about what happened, only to discover Chloe is working for him too. Since she's been more successful, from now she'll lead the operation, which makes Joe rather angry. Santiago and his team get things ready at his private airport, including his beloved red car which Nate and Sully take advantage of to sneak inside by hiding in the trunk. After looking at the map and deciding their trajectory, Santiago offers a speech about how his family had been betrayed and how he will restore their honor, but Joe interrupts him by killing him. Chloe gets scared and tries to escape, so while Joe and her men go after her, Nate and Sully take the chance to sneak around and recover the map. The plan is to also steal some parachutes and jump off the plane, but when they make it to the cargo hold, Nate can't help confronting Joe to ask her if she really killed Sam. Sully jumps away with the parachute as Nate finds himself in a fight with the men while the cargo is pushed off the plane, taking us to the beginning of the story. Joe's men find Chloe and engage her in a gunfight, which would make her difficult for her to escape by parachute as well. Instead, she decides to get inside the car and drive it off the plane, so when Nate climbs back inside, it's Chloe that pushes him out again. But she's also the one to grab his hand and guide him to one of the falling cargo boxes, dropping on top of it and opening its parachute, which allows them to safely land in the middle of the sea. The duo drifts around for a while until eventually, the waves take them to the Philippines, where they check in a hotel using Sully's credit card. Chloe prints a map that follows the same dimensions as the real one, and using Sam's postcards, Nate realizes the map doesn't pinpoint the exact spot to find the treasure. Sully was right, Sam did try to leave Nate the last clue, so Nate and Chloe spend the night trying to decipher his messages. Chloe gets tired after a while and goes to bed, but Nate refuses to give up, and this turns out to go in his favor because he realizes he hasn't used the oldest trick in Sam's book. Since the lighter still won't work, Nate uses a candle to reveal a secret message on a postcard telling him to use the crosses as a compass. Nate does exactly that and finally discovers the location of the gold, writing the coordinates on a piece of paper before going to bed too. The next morning, Jo and her men arrive at the area while Chloe wakes up first and finds the paper with the coordinates. She decides to take the note with her and leave Nate behind, but when Nate wakes up alone he isn't worried because she left the wrong coordinates on purpose, already guessing Chloe would betray him. Nate takes a motorboat to the cave indicated by the coordinates, unaware that Jo sees him from afar while looking around the wrong place. Inside this cave, Nate takes a swim to go through an underwater tunnel and comes out inside another cave where both of Magellan's ships have been hidden all these years. As Nate finds the gold inside, Sully shows up in the cave as well, thanks to the tracker he still has in his phone. He tells Nate that Sam would be proud of him, but before they can discuss things any further, Jo and her men show up, so the duo hides inside a secret compartment. With the help of 2 helicopters, Jo's crew airlifts the entire ships through a hole on top of the cave, so Nate and Sully come out of their hiding spot to grab as much gold as possible together with a dagger and a sword to defend themselves. Then, they go upstairs and fight the crew until they throw every man off the ship. Now Sully can climb up the chains that are holding the ship and reach the helicopter, where he pushes off the men he finds and takes over the control to fly away from Jo, who is on the other ship. Jo orders her pilot to follow Sully, causing her ship to hit the other. Her men jump into Nate's ship and begin a fight, thus Nate beats them up and gets to steal some guns from them. He also finds some gunpowder lying around. Sully guides the helicopter through a narrow passage between cliffs to lose the chasers, but Jo is waiting for him at the other end so he has to pull a very risky maneuver not crash against them. But this is only a temporary dodge, Jo and her ship are still coming after them, inspiring Nate to take extreme measures. Using the gunpowder he found, Nate puts a ball inside the ship's cannon and after a few failed tries, he manages to make Sam's lighter work and fires the cannon at the other helicopter. Jo jumps off the ship before it crashes against a hill with the helicopter on fire. Nate and Sully think they've won, but it turns out Jo has jumped onto their ship and is now releasing the anchor to keep them from escaping. It's obvious that the ship won't hold for long, and Jo and Nate exchange a few blows before Nate begins climbing the chains to reach the helicopter. Seeing Jo is coming after Nate, Sully decides to finally change his ways and sacrifices his bag of gold by throwing it at Jo, causing her to fall into the ocean. Then, Sully helps Nate into the helicopter right before the chains finally break and the ship falls on top of Jo, killing her. The ship gets to float for a few seconds before it begins sinking, and Nate figures they can dive for treasure later, but this won't be possible. The Philippine naval units are approaching, so the treasure will end up in hands of their government. As the duo flies away, Sully laughs when he sees Chloe trying to follow them on a motorboat, but he also laments the lack of treasure. However, Nate surprises him by showing him the gold he's managed to hide in his pants. Meanwhile, in a prison in the middle of nowhere, Sam writes Nate another postcard telling him to watch his back. Months later, Nate meets with an agent working for a man named Roman, who is interested in his ring and wants to exchange it for a Nazi map. The agent tries to betray Nate by taking both the ring and the map, but Sully shows up and creates a distraction so Nate can recover both items. As the duo leaves together, they're caught by an unseen person. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.